Welcome back to the C# Full Beginner course. In the last episode, you learned how to make smarter decisions using else-if statements and logical operators. But here's the problem. As your programs grow, long else-if chains can quickly become hard to read and harder to maintain. Professional developers look for cleaner solutions whenever possible. In this lesson, I'll show you a powerful alternative called switch statements and exactly when you should use them. By the end of this video, you'll know how to simplify your decision-making logic and write more readable C# code. Why switch statements exist? Else-if statements are great for many situations. But when you're checking the same variable against lots of possible values, else-if can feel repetitive. Switch statements were designed to handle this exact scenario. They allow you to take one value and compare it against multiple known options in a clean, structured way. This makes your code easier to scan, easier to understand, and easier to update later. What a switch statement is. A switch statement checks the value of a single variable. It then compares that value against a list of possible cases. When a match is found, the code for that case runs. After that, the switch statement stops executing. This makes switch statements perfect for things like menus, commands, and user selections. How a switch statement works. A switch statement starts by specifying the value you want to check. Each possible value is written as a case. When the program finds a matching case, it executes that block of code. At the end of each case, execution stops so that only one path runs. This behavior makes switch statements predictable and safe when used correctly. Switch versus else-if, when switch is cleaner. Switch statements don't replace else-if. They solve a specific type of problem. If you're checking ranges like ages or scores, else-if is usually the better choice. But if you're checking exact values, such as menu options or commands, switch statements are often much cleaner. Choosing the right tool is part of becoming a good programmer. The default case, your safety net. A switch statement can include something called a default case. The default case runs when none of the other cases match. It works like the else part of an if statement. This is important because it protects your program from unexpected input and ensures something always happens. Good switch statements almost always include a default case. Real-world example, menu selection. One of the most common uses of switch statements is menu systems. A program might display several options and wait for the user to choose one. Each choice maps directly to a specific action. Switch statements make this logic very clear because each option is separated and easy to follow. This is exactly how many real applications handle user input. Common beginner mistakes. There are a few common mistakes beginners make with switch statements. One is forgetting to stop execution after a case runs. Another is trying to use switch for logic it's not designed for, such as checking ranges or complex conditions. Understanding what switch is good at helps you avoid these problems. When you should use switch statements. Switch statements work best when you are checking one variable. You know the possible values ahead of time. Each value leads to a clear action. When those conditions are met, switch statements usually result in cleaner and more readable code. What you learned in this lesson. In this lesson, you learned what switch statements are and why they exist. You learned how cases and the default option work. And you learned when switch statements are the right choice compared to else-if. In the next episode, we'll move into loops and your programs will finally be able to repeat actions automatically. If this lesson helped you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.